Hey everybody, welcome to the new podcast. This podcast is called "And Another Thing." It's taking over for the 40-year-old Blurred podcast that was on Gamer's Life. But this podcast here will be focused more on film and on television and the creative industry within itself. I've been in the field now for about 30 years now, and I was able to kind of build up a little knowledge here and there, but plan on talking to a lot of people who are a lot smarter than me, who knows more about what's going on than I do, and it's really just talk about what's happening, where we're going forward, and what's the big events that's happening now in our field. We're definitely going to be opening up for questions. We're definitely want you guys to be involved and be really interactive in how we're doing this podcast, and just have some fun with it. But with that said, new episodes coming soon. This particular episode is going to be a rewind as I look back at one of my favorite episodes of 40-year-old Blurred, which was on the show called Hotwyred. I talked to the creators, the writers, and producers of Hotwyred. Hotwyred was BET's first and only gaming show. It reached a very high height before it would fortunately went away, but plays a very important conversation for me on minorities in gaming and kind of like how we're here and this is what we do, and how we actually play a part in the industry itself. So enjoy this podcast and then come join us again next week for our new podcast. All right, take care.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's your boy Shalako. We back with another episode of 40-year-old Blurred. That's right, 40-year-old Blurred. I'm not 50, even though I got the gray hair with my beard. But I'm here today, and what I wanted to talk about, what I need to talk about is gaming. Gaming. Gaming is on the forefront of culture today. We are stuck at home, and if you're going to play with something, you might as well play with games. You know what I mean? And today, though, I have three of what I call the kings of gaming here with me today. I'm going to have them introduce themselves. These men have a foothold in what we're doing, and we're going to start with you, Mr. Earl Jordan. Go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Man, hey, what's going on? I'm Earl Jordan. I've done production for since like 2000. Worked on a lot of different shows, a lot of different people. But gaming has always been a sweet spot in my life because shoot, I think the first video game someone bought in my life was my father. I think he had Pong. I think he really bought Pong. So I've been hooked since the beginning.
Okay. All right. Next up, we got my man, Bakari. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, what's up? I'm Bach, and producer. I've been around the block a few times, done a little bit of this and that. Gaming is life. I've been into it since the 1600. From tank on. It's it's been a deal.
Okay. And don't worry, ladies, that's not his sexy voice. That's how he usually sounds. All right. And next we got man, Brian.
Babe,
Brian, tell us about yourself.
games begin.
Yo, I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest of the bunch, but game is life for me too. Like I've been gaming since like the Atari 2600 as well. Like I got two older brothers, and they like they're 60 now. But I'm trying to tell you, my brothers. I remember not being able to afford being able to buy video games. My brothers used to like. They bought me my first Atari. So like my brothers were like my parents. I've been playing video games since Atari, and again, just being in the culture of video games and the know-how with video games. That's what I do.
Okay. Cool. So all right, here's what I want to start out with. I want you guys to tell me about where do you think the state of gaming is now, and how do we get there?
That's a broad statement because I think gaming, what it has done, it has eclipsed a lot of other entities. Like you have music, you have television, film. I think gaming, in my opinion, was looked at as like the underdog. And now, if you look at where it is, there's so many of those different entities like television and film. They're attaching themselves to video games now. I think video game has become the premier catalyst for all these other brands to like make money. I think it's bigger than all of them right now.
Okay.
I'd agree.
I think the thing about gaming right now is that it's so inclusive. Everybody can sit down. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're from, your beliefs, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody can sit down at the same table, pick up a stick and get it in.
Or get bricked up. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I'm one of them gamers that be hiding in the bathroom or Fortnite tearing them little kids, y'all.
Man.
I was gonna say, yeah, I had to leave a Fortnite alone. It kind of surpassed me.
I think gaming is kind of like parallel to the hip hop culture where it started as just like something that people thought was a pastime and ended up providing a lot of opportunities, a lot of jobs. A lot of people are supporting their families off of gaming right now. And I think a lot of people from our culture are supporting their families off of gaming right now. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Okay. Well, actually, let's segue into that right now because one of the things about you guys, I mean, you're not just gamers, of course. You are producers who have worked in television and film for, I guess, almost close to 20 years now.
Yeah.
And you guys created and I don't even know if I could say one of. I could definitely say the first and the only at the time uh black video game themed shows on a major network, which was a show called Hotwyred. So what I want to really talk about is the importance of that show and why it mattered and why a show like that needs to return. First, though, Bakria, tell me what made you want to create Hotwire.
All right, well, Hotwired, the inception, huh? So how we started. Well, I had a meeting with Reginald Hudlin and we were discussing ideas and we were thinking about doing, a tech show and going from there. But he just kind of threw out a broad brush idea. And I was like, okay, well, how can I flip this from my point of view, people that look like me coming from from where I'm from. So I got with Earl, my man E, Snake, we exactly. We sat down and we just started shooting ideas and we really didn't have like a set plan, like, okay, well, this is step 1, 2, etc. We just said, okay, what would we want to see? How would we want to go about this? What do we want to look at? Like, you know what, let's just jump in. I mean, nobody's done it before, so there wasn't a format to follow. So we just jumped right in, got on the horn, started making calls, gave him a brief, didn't really tell him too much because I didn't want any, you know, oh, well, I don't know, we've never heard, we've never tried, nobody's gotten their feet wet here.
Right.
So we just jumped in, got my man Flash, Shalako Gord, got my man Flash, put together a little package, saw what it looked like, and was like, hey, you know what? I think we can run with this. And nobody was doing it from our point of view. You don't see too many guys like us in the meetings or at the events and so forth, but we were there and we had a presence. It only took a couple of times for us to come through. Like, oh, those are the Hotwire guys. So you can pick it up from there because my man he jumped right in. He was like, oh, word, that's what we're doing? Why not?
Now, when was the show? What was the actual air date? The first air date for the show?
Wow.
Was that? I know it's what 2006.
Before we go to the air date, to complete the Voltron that was already in place, I have to intersect how I came into Hotwire, because I don't even think a lot of people knew, but they always say great minds think alike. And literally about a little over a year before I got called to talk about Hotwired, I had came up. I used to come up to BET all the time because I was just running around in New York. I was a freelance journalist. I wanted to pitch a show to BET, and I said, "Listen, you guys got this amazing platform, and why don't you guys have tech on there?" So when they said that you guys were putting something like this together, I was all in. It just felt like we were all just going with the flow. So it was like a pioneer show when you really look at what we did. It was the first of its kind on a major platform.
Right. So Earl, for you, like when it came to your desk, because you were already producing, you were a producer on 106 in Park at the time. At what point did you say, okay, you know what? Let me stop doing this and do this? Because like, did you feel like it was just so important that you had to be involved, or did you just say, you know what, I'm just going to take a break?
Speak on it, E.
Over here.
I mean, basically, it was just me working on a project. And 106 was a great show, but I didn't have a passion for that. I had a passion for music, but I didn't have a passion for, I had more of a passion for gaming and the potential of what that show could be. And then I've always known Bach, and I saw him work from a distance, and we worked on a few things together. And he was like, yo, he put me to the side because we both lived in Jersey. He was like, yo, I need to talk to you. There's an opportunity for this show, and we're going to be doing A, B, and C. And, you're the only one that I reached out to. I'm really building this from the ground up.
The gate.
Yep.
The gate, I was like, E,
Yep.
we got to sit down. How out, brother?
So when we did it through, and he was on the grill, and we was talking. I was like, yo, this just feels right. You know what I mean? We both had a passion for it, and we both knew that either one of us could pick up the pieces if we were left alone or had to do something or had to work on the fly. We both knew how to do that because we did it all the time. And you really got to shout out Bach for reaching out to Reginald, and Reginald for having the open mind, because remember, he pretty much just had gotten there.
Right.
He was greenlighting a lot of new content at the time, which is scary because you don't know what's going to stick and what's not going to hit. And also, we were the only, I'd say, qualified real gamers at the network at the time.
Right.
Everybody else is all music, and they were like, you know what? Yeah, you guys are doing that little game thing and blah, blah, blah. But they really didn't know that when we went to all these events and talking to people at Twitter and talking to all these little people, they were showing us love. They were showing us love. We know American men there.
Right.
They were showing us so much love.
So, talk about that, because one of the things, actually, even before we go there, was the format of the show. Now, I recall, and this is what my memory is, because just so people know, I was asked to be an editor on the show, and I was like, oh hell yeah! I mean, like, duh. I was all in. I was like, okay, let's do it. But I know one of them, and I'm going to speak as real and clearly as I possibly can. But I know one of my grievances initially was kind of like the format, because I felt like with that show, we had enough content for that show that there needed not be any music videos involved within the show. And I recall the conversation we had, and I don't know if you remember, where I guess initially the request was, oh, we have to put 4 music videos in the show, which, if you know television, for a half-hour show, we already got 4 music videos. That's half our time. Basically, that's basically all our time. So we don't have any time to show or to talk about what the show is actually about when we're showing, a B2K video or some crap like that. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it if it's going to be that many videos. I can't do it.
Right now, I'm in the mood to show our next video of the day. So here it is. Let's hop into our next video of the day. Here it is. Let's hop into our next video of the day. Enjoy.
And so I think, Bach, you went back and said, look, we can only do 3. We do 3 videos because we need space for our content and everything else. How did that come out? Because I felt like there shouldn't have been any videos, but I also felt like you had to make a compromise because it was music television, the video. Like what was that about?
Exactly. Just like he said, it's like Earl said, everybody, we were about games. We were about the life. We were about the game of life. Everybody else, no disrespect, but everybody was on the music. I mean, it's a music television network. So, the compromise has to be there. I mean, you should have, like, some of those meetings, after a while, my demeanor, after a while, okay, I'm beating my head against the wall on this. I'm going to have to give. I'm going to have to give in order to get something out of it so I can do something. So all right, the compromise was, all right, I'll have to give up a certain amount of time for music videos in order to put in my content that I want. Because they didn't really know anything about the content that we were doing. We were just running it. Well, I had a lot of meetings where I had to explain, certain things like, all right, well, it's important that we're talking about the console because this is going to be like the biggest thing that's coming out this year.
Yo, remember? I remember vividly when we did that first piece on Alienware on their computers. They was like, "Well, what's Alienware? Like, we don't have that." Like, they didn't understand it, but you know what? It's weird because there was so much opportunity that they could have. That I feel personally that they could have taken advantage of that they did.
I mean, it was just because they didn't know. I mean, we were early with it. We were early with a lot of the content.
We broke the Apple TV to the audience. We broke the very first Apple TV to the BET audience on that show. That was an exclusive. Like if you really look back, that was the very first one. No other network had. We had it the same
It
time.
happened big.
Well, that's I think Hotwired definitely had a lot of exclusives, to be quite honest.
Yeah, we quite a few.
And one of the things that impressed me, and I don't know if I even spoke to you guys about it too, because I'm sitting with all the footage, so I'm always sitting. I see everything. There's nothing, if the camera's shooting it, I see it, of course. And one of the things that always impressed me and really made me understand that, okay, these guys really created something was, and I think you had mentioned it earlier, was how people responded when you guys entered the room. And I go back to an interview that Lamorne Morris, who ended up being the host of Hotwire, and we could talk about how he got there a little bit later, but interview Lamorne Morris did with Reginald Fils-Aimé, I can never say his name correctly, but who was the president of Nintendo.
What's going on, TV viewers? Hotwired, Lamorne here. I'm on the scene hanging out with Nintendo. Today is a very special day because I'm here. And you know why? Because I always bring the goods. Why should today be any different? I'm hanging out with Reginald Fils-Aimé.
Yep.
And I looked at that footage and I looked at even just in the connection that he had. And as animated as a guy, if you know Reginald, you know that he's an animated guy. He's a character in itself, you know? But I felt that shift happened when he was talking to Lamorne. Now I could just put my thing on it, but I felt like he was like, wait a minute, I'm talking to a black man about gaming for a black show. And here I am, a black man, and I'm usually talking to these other guys. I don't usually talk to them. You know what I'm saying? So for him, I felt like it was like, yeah, it's starting to, the ball is rolling. Here we are. Like, did you guys feel that when you were going on these shoots and you were doing this stuff?
Wait, I do got to interject about that Reggie interview because what we did during that interview is a piece of gaming culture. Because if you go back to that interview and play it back, Lamorne nicknamed Reggie Reginator during that video.
Reginator. We're hanging out with the Reginator right now. Reginator, what do you do for Nintendo?
I'm the president and chief operating officer for Nintendo of America.
And that was Reggie's tag, Reggie Fils-Aimé. That was his tag all the way up to the end of his career. If you look at it, it just says Reggie Reginator Fils-Aimé. We nicknamed him. He said, what should I call you, Reggie Reginator? And that was in that clip. If you watch that clip, that's from Hotwire. And if you look on all the blogs on IGN, Kotaku, all these popular blogs that are out now, they all called him Reggie Reginator. I don't know, but it stuck with him up until he retired as the president of Nintendo. But we got it on film. Yeah, we called him Reginator. Like, so that's why we got some clout. I don't care. We got clout for that.
But that's what I'm saying. Talk about that. Like, talk about, because I remember also having like, you guys talked to. I think at the time he was VP of Xbox.
Give us a little bit about where you think Xbox is going to be in the next couple of years.
Well, first off, you may not know who you're with, but I'm actually the BIG VIP. That's my gamer tag. So people call me Notorious BIG VIP.
Okay.
So big hip hop fan, big gamer. So I brought that to Xbox Live.
Talk about how that shift kind of changed when you guys showed up in the room, because I believe at the time the only other gaming channel was G4 TV.
That was it.
That was it.
E4 was
So it was G4 TV and Hotwire.
Let me
Talk about that effect.
let me go back a little bit first. Let me go back a little bit to give you a little bit of context of what we were working with. Like, people don't really even notice because some of this stuff didn't even really air. But early on, Bakri and I were told to go to and1 basketball facilities because they dropped a video game out at the time.
Really?
So we were told to create a package, right? So the way that we work, we went to the facilities. We were escorted by Troy Jackson, aka Escalade, rest in peace, who showed us much love. It took us all around the whole facility. We grabbed footage of Lamorne, a new host, new to the game,
Right.
playing basketball and having fun with Chris Brown, who also happened to be there. And we bring the package back. Not only do we bring a package back, but we brought a full 30-minute show that we shot and made out of and1. That's what type of producers we were. You know what I mean? We didn't half-ass anything. We went there. We're like, listen, all right, we're going to give you guys your little 2-minute, 30-second package, but here's also a 30-minute show to give you the real feel of the basis of what we think this show could potentially be. And I say that to say that when we went into a place, we gave it 100%. When we went into or like, when we went to E3 or all these other places, we would go there with a war mentality. All right, we're doing A, we're doing B, we're doing C. All right, at this time we have to be here. So we have to cut through here and make this interview short, or we got to go there. And on top of that, we're still working with a new host who has needs, who might be a little bit insecure about because he's new. Right. There's no shot, you know what I'm saying? It's just you're new. Right. And you're not, you play video games, but you're not a gamer. So you're in a world that is like, when you walk into an E3, it's like you're like, you're taken aback. You're like, what is this?
It's like, yo, hold on. Tell what E3 is for listeners who may not know. Talk about what is E3.
Electronic Gaming Expo, pretty much.
Okay, so everybody who makes a video game, this is where you go to show off your video game, to show off what you have coming, what you have now, and it's kind of like the biggest video game trade show in the world is E3.
And it's a place where you go if you're dropping a sci-fi film, a series,
Right.
discussions. But keep in mind, Hotwired was not just gaming. It was gaming. Brian brought all the gadgets. He brought the technology aspect of it to there. We were dipping into animation.
The hell did you come up with Afro Samurai?
Well, Bazak-san has conceived his Astro Samurai idea more than 10 years ago. Since then, he has, so many inspirations that he conceived during these, 10 years. And he developed Afro Samurai.
You know what I mean? We were the first shows that were talking about social media. 106 in Park, let me change it. 106 in Park lived through social media. They were a BET show that basically showed other networks how to work social media for the young generation. Hotwire did that before 106 did. Actually, our connect with Twitter is how 106 actually got connected through Twitter with the big Twitter board and all that. We were the ones doing it first.
If I could choose two things from when we did Hotwire that really, really stand out and make me like just proud of like what we accomplished together, that would be one, actually being invited by IBM to go to their chip facility. That was a big deal for us. We got a chance to go into, at the time, the leading manufacturer of semiconductors for, they had their chips at the time in the Xbox, the Wii, but for them to invite a black team into their facilities and to shoot with that was huge. And then for Tony Hawk to even want to come on our show and spend a day with
That's
us.
it. We did have the heart.
Okay? So today I decided to teach some kids how to skate. As a matter of fact, my main student's a little bit late. I'm not sure where he is. You know, running late is unacceptable to me. Okay, I really can't have people being late. For a lesson? Yeah, you were supposed to come and I was supposed to teach you how to skate. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tony Hawk. I'm not sure if you do that. This is Tony Hawk. Say hello. Hello, hello.
With Activision, you know, we had a lot of, when I look back, we had so many great things that we did but we were just in a moment that we really didn't realize that, yo, this is bigger than big. Like getting Tony Hawk at the top of his career with pro skating. They're just now coming out with the Tony Hawk game remastering them over.
Right.
But we had him come on when he was hot.
Right.
So what we did was big when I look back at it.
You guys did the PlayStation 3 launch.
Yeah.
And where you had Ludacris and Charlie Murphy, and then everyone was outside. And then the thing is, like I said, I see the footage. Oh, there's Hotwyred. Oh, there's a Hotwyred over there. There's Hotwyred. And I'm like, man, this is big. Like, I tell you really one quick story. I lived in Brooklyn, but at the time I was traveling uptown and I'm on the A train. And there were a group of young black kids who actually, no, let me correct myself. They were mixed. It was black and some white kids, but they were young kids. Usually they weren't like, like hip hop kids, but they were kind of in between both cultures and everything. And they were talking about Hotwire. They were talking about Hotwire. And it was like, oh, we was talking about this some game. I can't remember which game it was, but the kid was all excited. Oh, no, no, no. Remember we did this and this, and then on Hotwire did it. And I stood up and I was like, wait, easy Hotwire? And so I went to him and I said, yo, did you just say you just talk about Hotwire? He's like, oh yeah, yeah. I was like, tell me about that. Oh man, it's this gaming show, man. It's got the brothers on there, and they talk about all these games that's coming out, and they were talking about this. And I was like, yo, like, this is resonating. Like it's hitting. Cause I know one of the problems was, or at least me, because you guys know me, I had a lot of problems. But I know one of the things was I thought the show should have aired at a different time. But the show was airing at a time that I didn't think quite benefited the show.
Well, I think the show
It didn't expanded the reach that the show could have got,
Yeah.
So talk about that though. Like could you guys fight for that? Or was it just kind of like, this is the time we want to put you guys on and that's it? Indeed, the show did well in ratings for what it was. You know what I mean?
For what it was, yes, but I would agree. We did air at the wrong time. And that I've had that discussion quite a few times. But it all circles back to the very beginning. They didn't understand. They weren't part of the gaming culture.
Right.
So they didn't know. Like, folks that are playing these games or that's into this stuff, they're going to be up. They're going to be up. They're not going to be during the day at like 3 o'clock. And that's not happening. So I mean, I had conversations about it, but we were so early, and we were so early with all of our ideas and our content. They weren't getting. I mean, now hindsight is of course 2020. They get it now. They're like, wow, hey, this idea was pitched 15, 20 years ago, and now here it comes circling around. I mean, but yeah, the airtime.
But they couldn't decide on the airtime sometimes too. Like sometimes it wouldn't even come on at the time that it was supposed to air. So I just think that it was a bit of mismanagement on the schedule.
I mean, it was a product that they didn't know what to do with. They had a new toy, but they didn't know how to use it.
Right. But even as the show grew, so because Hotwire was on, I want to say for at least a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah, because we shot more. I have, in terms of the archive stuff, I think I have 90 episodes on it.
Wow.
So Hotwire was on for a while. So even as the show grew, because I feel like one of the things that's a benchmark for a show is industry respect. And I recall during a Comic-Con, I believe a New York Comic-Con, where we went to interview. At the time, the show was Heroes, and it was like one of the biggest shows around. Everyone was like watching Heroes, save the cheerleaders, save the world, that whole deal. And G4 TV was there. One thing that I recall, and like I said, industry recognition, is that we didn't have an interview scheduled with the girl Hayden Panettiere, who was the cheerleader, who at the time was like one of the biggest stars, one of the hottest stars. She was really rising, and we didn't have an interview scheduled. And we were like, oh, well, we should interview her because she's here. But it was a schedule that they had to keep. And I recall it like it happened yesterday. And G4 was like, oh, no, you guys could go because you're Hotwyred. They'll take you. And we had our production manager, Naima, Lamorne was there. You guys were there. And he just went. It's like, yo, this is Hotwyred. We want to get interviewed. Oh, okay, cool. Come on in. And I'm like, to me, and you guys have more of that producing experience than I do, but to me, that is the benchmark of a successful show. A show that's really growing because the industry is now acknowledging you and acknowledging your impact and who you are. Why do you believe that didn't translate well to the company which was airing this show?
Well, I'm gonna keep it funky. Well, the first part of that question is Bakri putting the right people in the right places, and it's effort. If people care about what they're doing, they're gonna find a way to make something happen. They'll absolutely find a way to make something happen. The second part, I think, two things. One, the connection between music and gaming wasn't fully there yet because everybody at BET was more about the music and they didn't know about all the Black people at home that were playing gaming, even though they saw it and experienced it. They didn't think it was that serious or as big as it was. And let's be totally honest, there was a war going on at BET at the time. There were two feuding entities. We're not going to say no names.
Funky.
There was two feuding entities,
Yes.
and that spilled over into what we were trying to accomplish. So not only was I going on shoots and handling business, and Brian was bringing in products, and you were in the edit, and Bakri was putting out fires.
Yep.
So we were all doing 2 or 3 jobs, and that affected the airtime, that affected our hosts, that affected the music videos that we should not have been playing. You know what I mean? Like all that were one side saying you should do this, and the other side saying, well, we should do this, we should do that. So I think that played the biggest part in why the show ended out the way that it was.
So I guess even talk about that, because is that why you believe the show ultimately ended with very little fanfare, was because of these warring entities? I mean, because it wasn't the content. It wasn't I don't even think it was the numbers, because I think the numbers were well when it aired when it was supposed to air. So why do you guys believe that show ended the way it did, and there was nothing that was kind of next to say, okay, gaming is the way to go?
Well, there was something next. It just wasn't gaming.
Right.
Hotwired wasn't supposed to do as well as it did. It became a placeholder show. It became a show where it's like, oh, we didn't think it was going to last this long. All right, so let's hurry up and plan the next thing. Next thing that is more BET styled, countdown, music-based type situation. That's what they were trying to do. So us doing well was like, all right, we're going to let these guys do their thing over there because they can't be stopped. Well, rest believe there's an end date. We're just not going to let them know the end date.
Right, because let me tell you, my inbox stayed, after we started getting like, some exclusives, like when we did Apple and Sega and a few of the other companies, my inbox, people were hitting. They wanted to be on BET. They wanted to get into the door because I think once you guys put the shows out and put them together and edit them, once the company saw what it was, they were like, oh wow, this really can work on this platform. And then that's when they started, hey, can we get this product on here? Or can we get this product? Or can we put this game? So the companies wanted more. They wanted to come on the show. They wanted more.
That's correct.
They liked what we were doing. They loved what we were doing. But again, it was beyond us. It was beyond us.
Right. When like you said, once they saw what we were doing and the direction that we were coming from. Once Shalako, put his Flash put his magic on it, and they saw the packages, I would have some exclusives from, like, I remember we were doing, like, the when Gears of War was dropping, and what's his name? Hideo. Remember that, E? I remember his name. I mean, we had ends with all these people, but the the funny business going on between the factions, it really did kind of hinder what we were trying to do. Or what I wanted to do was just hit the ground running and just let it ride. Just let it ride and do all these, just hitting them from every angle. And I had the right team for that. So I was hyped. I was like, yes, we can do this, but we got to put videos in. We got to do that. I mean, the content was solid, and we had so many potential big things just waiting in the wings, just get the green light. But we were just early for it.
And on top of that, let's just call it for what it is. Other companies witnessed the power of the black dollar.
Bingo.
Other companies witnessed the power of the black dollar. BET did not. Our ad sales department didn't know how to sell it.
Oh, this.
Oh my goodness.
G-Shock watches, cell phones, laptops, TVs, computers. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like video games. You name it. It was a playground. It was a Toys R Us for our ad sales department, and they couldn't sell it.
It's not like they couldn't sell it. They didn't want to sell it. One says they didn't know. They didn't believe in it.
Well, I say they couldn't because they have the expertise too, but they refused to.
Right. They didn't
Chose not to.
Yeah, they didn't want to sell it.
If you go now for all the award shows that they do, it's so funny and ironic that, now they're at award shows for all the celebrities, they have all these little tents with all these little Hotwyred kind of sort of inspired tech toys inside of these tents. You got tents where they're playing gaming. You got tents where they're listening to the music. They had a Rap City tent with the 360 virtual. Like they're doing everything that's technology based because, like Bakri said, it was ahead of its time. And a lot of that is like, especially with our culture, sometimes it's like, we don't want to accept what's new and because it feels a little different and it kind of is a little dangerous. You know what I mean? We don't know if it's going to win or lose.
So is that what you
Yeah.
think? Well, that will tell you what you
Take
think,
that
but
chance.
you think like basically because you guys were kind of first out of the box, you were the only black show doing gaming and tech. You know what I mean? And even being involved in movies, because I remember some movie junkets we did that were like gaming involved and things like that, like Fast and the Furious and all this other stuff. Like,
Yeah.
do you guys think that being the first one out the gate with that is what is also kind of like a detriment to the show? Because like black people playing games, like we're not known for that, as they say. We've all can have a. If you ask most people, a lot of people, they'll tell you, oh yes, we had an Atari, we had this. Oh, people used to play Nintendo, blowing the cartridges, all this crap or whatever. But then it's like it's hard for them to wrap their head around someone who's actually, a gamer who looks like them. Like, do you think that was just too hard for African Americans at the time that weren't, young to understand, or do you simply think like it was just like, you know what, we don't get it because we don't want to get it?
I think it was overlooked. I think it was just, we're all doing this and everybody here is on this and you guys are over there doing that and that's cool, but that's not this. And this is what puts the bread on the table.
That's as simple as that right there.
And to the other detriment, it wasn't, you can understand Shalako because you you edited the pieces where we did with the live straw that are actually saving people's lives. Well, let's talk about, or we can talk about Virgin Space Travel Flight, which you're just doing now that we were talking about in 2006, where normal passengers could spend a whole bunch of money and they can fly into outer space. We were doing that.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Hell, those conversations we had.
And it's funny that you even said the life straw because I remember you guys gave me a life straw.
Yeah.
And then when I went on vacation to the Dominican Republic with my life straw. And then I used it. And then everyone was like, oh, well, what is this? I'm like, it's a life straw. And people were to look into it and everything. And I mean, like I said, I know because I was a part of it, I may be a little bit biased, but I felt like the impact that show could have had, is massive. Like, and it annoys me, not from a egotistical way, but just simply from a cultural standpoint that no one's talking about.
Yeah.
Like, it annoys me that esports now is the largest, like the largest sporting event now in the world. That these you got kids playing video games who making millions now. You got all of these, these gaming, like I said, these gaming events, and I remember I went to my first esports events that was in the Madison Square Garden. It was packed. All of these things, and then don't tell me you're gonna go in there, you're gonna see one face. You see all the faces, and you see a whole lot of us because we are a part of tech. We are a part of gaming. We are a part of these things, and it really, I'm being honest. It does bother me that no one talks about that. How do we get people to talk about it?
Now it's out there. It's out now.
How
Social.
do we talk about Hotwired? How do we say, yo, Hotwired did this? Hotwired started this. You know what I mean? This came from Hotwire. How do you do that?
Timestamp and throw them pieces out there. Timestamp and throw Reggie up there. Throw what we did with Reggie. Throw the first Apple TV on a major black network out there. Throw all the stuff that we were first with and groundbreaking with, and out and put it out there as like a time capsule. This is where it started for our culture. We did a lot of that first, so I think the information should be somehow put out there. However, the legal way we could do it.
Let's talk about the fact that. Well, let's talk about the fact. First of all, it's home cooking. Does the network of BET do history on all the stuff that network has created and brought to the culture in general? No, they don't.
Wow.
So you'll never know a lot of the little gems that happened there unless you were there or unless you know somebody that was there. You know what I mean? Like we were literally at an event and we saw Reginald Hudlin because he was doing a signing and he was creating some other stuff for his other projects because he never stopped doing what he loves. You know what I'm saying? He never stopped doing like award shows and comics, and because that's what he loved. And he was open minded, and let's talk about Lamorne with comedic timing. He was just getting started.
Right.
If he had a little more time, he would have been an icon in not only in the gaming world, but in the comedic world through gaming.
Right. I remember some of those skits. I can't recall which show we don't game it was. I think it was SSX, and you guys went to the Ice Hotel in Canada, and then he did the whole thing as in his thermal
Underwear?
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
he
his
woke up
underwear,
early the
basically
next
in the
morning.
snow, which was funny. I thought that was
And that was his idea. It was like, yo, I want to run around in the stone in my underwear and look like I'm. And as producers, we're like, okay, we could do that. Let's do it.
yeah. I thought that was actually pretty clever, man. So where do we go from here? Because I know, like I said, I look at gaming now. I look at a guy like Sonic Fox, who I think
He's killing it.
he's like the number one, esports guy. I think was it Mortal
Killing it.
Kombat or something, like he's the man. You know what I mean? He's a LGBTQ, member. He's black. I mean, and it's like things that we didn't think we'd see 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. But this is where we are now. And like I said, for me, that Hotwire was part of that birth. You understand what I'm saying? So where do we go from here now? What's next now as far as African Americans in gaming and the role that we play in game? What do you guys think?
The platforms are already out there. I mean, it's just it's just where you want to go. I mean, the platforms are there. I mean, online, you can do anything. You don't have to worry about factions, rivalries, or anything. You can go straight to the people and give it how you want to, without any compromise. I mean, the platforms are there. It's just a matter of, what you want to do and how far you're willing to take it. I mean, because the platforms are there and you don't really need an outrageous budget to do anything. I mean, you got an iPhone or a phone, you can make stuff happen.
Yeah. I think there's another component to it as well, and that is the component of perception in our community of video games. Because I can't tell you how many times when I used to play video games too long on my back, turn that video game off. I think that in our community, video games are looked at where it's not really shown. I think other cultures have monetized it in a good way. There's so much that we bring to the table that we're not taking advantage of. A lot of us can draw our asses off. There's so much art in video games. You look at animation, Grand Theft Auto. There's so many different ways that our culture and our people can get into video games, and there's so many opportunities available. But you have so many other cultures in there because I think as a whole, we don't realize. We just see the end product. We see the Grand Theft Autos and we see the Call of Duties, but we don't see the back end of that and the opportunities that are there to make those things. And you can be educated and still play video games and have a passion for it. And you may become one of those programmers on the next Call of Duty, or the team don't always have to look a certain way. There's not a lot of us on the back end of that. When if you look at like some of the major like game companies, you have I don't want to screw his name up, but Hideo Kojima, and you have um, the Miyamotos, and you have all these iconic names. But where is the Bakris and the Bryans? Where are the Bakris and the Bryans? How come? Just truth be told, and I don't want to call any particular companies out because I love playing their stuff. But if you look at some of the top, Grand Theft Audio is our culture, but it's not made by us.
But see,
So
okay, but I'm glad you actually even brought that up. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off because that's be my last question. Like, how do we get into that? How do we start actually making the games? You know what I mean? Like everyone, I was on today, and someone was talking about, oh gosh, what was it? What culture of wrestling? And the guy was talking about the Def Jam fighting game. You know what I mean? The one that was there was a the Def Jam or something like that, whatever, right? And then
Bro, I was just talking about that game the other day.
now remember, crazy story. We didn't make that game though. It was about the rappers were in it and all that stuff. It was black and it was, but I know it because you guys covered it. Because Hotwyred covered it.
That's
So I
Joe.
know who was behind the scenes in making that game. The guys who made your Fight Night and all this other stuff. So I know who those guys were, but we didn't do it. And this game was essentially a black game. It was our game. So how do we get behind the scenes of that? Like we're fighting to get behind the scenes of the movies. How do we get behind the scenes and actually start making these games?
it's educating. It's educating. Yo, between even the young generation now, there's so many producers that are on Fruity Loops. There's so many songwriters. There's so many animators and like people that can draw. Those three things right there, you can get into eventually either doing art design or scoring. There's so many. I think it's a lack of knowledge that there are big opportunities out there if you do these basic things. Perfect example. I was talking about this kid. He created the game Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is a game about farming. It's a play off of the old Harvest Moon thing. But this one kid by himself programmed a game, and now he's 40 million in the tank. He's rich. There's one dude. So what I'm saying is that there are ways, and if you have those basic skills, the tools are easier now to develop. So I just think it's a perception that, oh, I can't do that, so I'm gonna just wait until the next Call of Duty come out, but you can make it.
I think it's definitely knowledge, and it's like the old martial arts films, man, where the student becomes the master. You used to play games. We have a story. Our culture comes from an abundance of stories. The main thing about a gaming nowadays is a strong story.
Story, right?
So I mean, I think now, unfortunately and fortunately, with all things that's going on with society, they are going to be looking for our story now.
Right.
We have to be available and open-minded and be able to tell our story truthfully and still be creative. Prime example, Watchmen. Never knew that was gonna come out like that. Amazing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We all read Watchmen as kids. They all knew it, you know what I mean? But then it's like, oh, now you see it, and everyone's like, oh, I didn't know anything about that. Like, whoa, wait,
And the,
you watched it. Yeah.
and the HBO special, they flipped it. I didn't know that we were gonna put it on it. I didn't know it was gonna be like that. I had no idea.
Right. But we didn't make the game, and that's my point.
Oh, you didn't make the game.
And it's like where it says, it's knowledge. You got to, it's our generation has to teach the younger generation that these tools are available to you if this is your passion. Or even if it's not your passion, you just want to try it. You might like it. You might love it.
All right. Well, I think we could talk about this for quite some time. I know I can. And I mean because I'm in a place now, where I'm like my son is coming up, and he wants to play his video games and he loves his Maddens and his MLBs, and I'm trying to kind of shift him more towards these kind of role playing games, like you said, story based games and everything. But I just love the way that he kind of takes to it. You know what I mean? And how I see him and me and what I did and how I did it. And I think, like you said, that there's a generation that could come up and not only play it, but actually make it and be a part of it. So I'm always all in on games. Everyone knows I love my movies and everything, but gaming also to me is just another avenue of storytelling. But I want to wrap this up by basically saying to you guys, all three of you, like I feel like I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of, to me, the something that's groundbreaking and that was historical. Thank you. Yeah. Hotwire would always have a place in my heart. I do still have some of them old clips. So if you do start seeing them floating around on the internet, I'm not saying I'm going to be the one to put them out, but
But we can be out. That's what I'm saying. Efficient. They need to be out. We need to educate.
yeah, but keep your eyes peeled. And, who knows? You know what I mean? I did raid that library before, Nikki locked that door. So, but I just like I appreciate what you guys did. And never think that it wasn't worthwhile. You know what I'm saying? Never think that you didn't have an impact or that you didn't create an impact. And I think that you guys are pioneers in gaming, especially for African Americans. And I think that, you know, we have a spot now. It is kind of our time now to build more. You know what I mean? And to build more in gaming and African Americans for African Americans, and to take it to the next level. So, any final thoughts on that?
I'd say I think the future of gaming is going to be what it is now, the combination of sports games and like The Sims. Like everybody wants to not only be the best person on the basketball court in NBA 2K, but you want to have the mansion outside of the game. You want to have all these other material things outside of the game. So they're bringing like they've done the neighborhoods, but they're just going to expand more and more and more and more and broader. And that is digging deeper and deeper into our culture.
Bob, any final thoughts?
Yeah, he just summed it up right there.
All right, Brian. I know we got all your thoughts. So
Now you ain't got them all. You ain't got them all. Hotwired was it personally for me it was a game changer in my life. It gave me so many things, and even when I left, even when we dismantled, it catapulted me into uh probably one of the best experiences of my life, and that was hired for PC Magazine, as their gaming guy. Or I stayed with them until they stopped doing print production. So, and I got that because of Howard.
I have to admit, Hotwired was a very special time for me. I got a chance to get with my brothers and do something that nobody else had done yet. I mean, I don't think they've even done it yet. I don't think we've been duplicated.
Nah.
No, I don't think we've been duplicated. But that was something special, and it was a lot for those that didn't know. I mean, if you know, you know.
Right.
But it was a lot for some people to take in because it was so early and it was so fresh and it was so new. So I'm glad I got a chance to take that step with my team, because I couldn't have asked for a better squad than what I got. You guys made it happen day in, day out. We stayed on it. Everybody had their own job, their own lane, but we all came together. Regardless of all the fires I had to deal with, Hotwire was definitely worth it. And yeah, Shalako, you're right. You know, we did have a presence, and our presence was felt. You know, when Earl and I would come in the room, they knew what time it was. They knew who we were. And you know, yeah, BT helps a lot. You know, that's a nice something to have in your back pocket. But they were dealing with us on the strength of who we were and our work. You know,
Yep.
And you should definitely be proud of that. There you go.
guys.
So we'll definitely talk again, you know, especially maybe around when the PS5 drops. Because I know me and my, Sony horse self, I'm going to be the first one to buy it, and I'll be there, and glitches and all, but I'm pretty sure I'll get it. But like I said, once again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me. This was actually a lot of fun, very informative. Brian, once again, is just showing off his controller that he knows I'll never get. So, I appreciate that. But take it easy, brothers.
Yeah.
Gaming. And we will definitely talk again soon. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate everyone checking out the show.
Thank you.
All right.
Peace.